Hope you're doing well. Today we'll be multiplying and dividing with negative numbers. So let's do a quick warm up before we get in. So what's 5 times 3? That is 15. And then 24 divided by 6, that is 4. The rules with positive and negative. When you multiply a positive by a positive, like we just did, you'll get a positive number. When you have a positive and you divide another positive, you'll still have a positive, like we did in the previous slide. Now with the negatives. When you multiply a positive with a negative, you'll get a negative. When you have a positive, divide a negative, you'll get a negative. But when you multiply a negative by a negative, you'll get a positive. And then when you have a negative, divide a negative, they'll cancel out and you'll get a positive. And here's a negative. When you multiply it by a positive, you'll get a negative. And when you have a negative number, dividing it by a positive number, it'll remain negative. Okay? So just note that, think of a negative number like a diamond. The only thing that can break a diamond is another diamond. So the only thing that can take away one negative is another negative. So only when you have an even amount of negatives will you get a positive. Like right here we have 2 negative, which is 2 is an even number, and you have a positive. When you have an odd number of negatives, like you only have one negative here, you'll end up with a negative. Okay? So what I like to do is I like to leave the negatives to the very end. You can either do it in the beginning or the end. Try not to do them in the middle because it might just confuse you and you don't need that. So what's 6 times 7? Let's see. Well, 6 times 6 we know would be 36, plus 6 would be 42. So 42. 1 diamond over here, so there'll be 1 diamond over here. 16 divided by negative 4. So let's leave the negatives to the end. So we know 16 divided by 4, just normal, would be 4. And we only have 1 negative, so 1 negative. Negative 14 divided by negative 7. Let's leave the negatives to the end. 14 divided by 7 is 2. And then since you have a negative here and a negative here, they'll cancel each other out. Another way of writing this problem would be like negative 14 over negative 7, and you could cancel them out that way. And you'll still end up with 2. Our answer is positive 2. Now negative 5 times negative 4. So let's just do 5 times 4 is 20. And a diamond will take out another diamond. So these two negatives will make a positive. 6 times 3 is positive 18. No negatives in here, so don't let that fool you. Like a lot of times what happens is that once you start getting in with negatives, you think that there's always going to be a negative in the problem. Don't think that. The rule of negative 1 and positive 1. So what's anything times 1? Okay, that'll be what you start with, right? So 1,306 times 1 will give you 1,306. Now negative 1,306 times negative 1, so let's do the negatives at the end. So without the negatives, we'll have 1,306. And we know that the signs will cancel out because there's 2 diamonds, 2 negatives. Now, 1,306 times negative 1, let's do the negative last. So 1,306, only 1 negative, so our answer will be negative. And now here we have 2 negatives. Negative 1,306 times negative 1 will give you positive 1,306. So as you might see, if you multiply anything by negative 1, the number will stay the same. It's just going to have the opposite sign. So like here, positive became negative. This negative became positive. Just remember that, all right? Our last thing, just something to remember, almost like a riddle. So we have an expression almost with 2 boxes. So that tells us that something has to go in it, but we don't know what to put in. Let's see, are either of these bigger, smaller, like are they equal, not equal? Let's find out. So to do this, let's plug in numbers. So let's just say x equals 3, and let's just say y equals 5. So let's see what this first one is. That would be a negative out here, and a 3, and a 5. So If you have a graphing calculator, you can just put in -3/5, and remember, don't use the minus sign, use the negative sign when you plug this in. But if you have a normal 4 function, just put in the -3/5 and then just change the sign. You're just multiplying it by -1. Then what you hopefully got is -0.6. Okay, let's see what this one is. -3/5. Now you can plug this straight into your calculator. Okay, remember, don't use the minus sign, use the negative sign for when you're plugging in the negative. So -3/5 will also give you -0.6. So we know that there has to be an equal sign in here because these two are equal. Let's plug in the last one. +3/5. So once you plug that one in, you'll also get -0.6. So all three of them are equal. So it doesn't matter where you put the negative. It doesn't matter if it's here, over up here, or down here. It always will give you the same result. Now, just so you guys know, ask your teacher if you guys should rationalize the denominator. Now, what does that mean? It means that you cannot have your negative in the denominator. You have to bring it up. So by bringing it up, so let's bring this down. So we have x over -y. Just multiply it by -1 over -1, and that'll give you -x over y. So the negative basically just comes up here. Alright, hope you guys have a great day.